On this episode, the tables are turned. I'm going to play an interview I had with my friend Tina Powell from Intentionally. We cover marketing, choosing the right platform, and some of the trends we're seeing in the financial services industry.
You're listening to the Resilient Advisor podcast. This episode of the Resilient Advisor is brought to you by the Titleist Advisor Network, where independent financial advisors become resilient, high-growth business owners. Since 2003, we've been private equity-free, helping advisors build real equity in their firms. Learn more at jointitleist.com.
You guys are in for such a wonderful, wonderful treat today with Jay Coulter here. Jay, I couldn't wait to have a conversation with you. I'm so incredibly proud to know you. Proud to call you friend. You have this impressive career that spans over 25 years. You've built a reputation as just an awesome human being, an advisor, an innovator, and now you go from, launching Resilient Advisor, and thank you for all of the work that you've done to help to really promote the profession and to help other advisors, what I'll kind of say, get out of their own way. Now you're stepping in as CEO of Titleist Asset Management, a phenomenal firm. I couldn't be more happier for you.
Thank you, Tina. And thanks for having me on. I'm a big fan of yours. We've been friends for a while. I really, really respect the way you live your struggles online to help other people, particularly around your cancer battles. That's actually how you and I ended up connecting, and the way you're able to advocate for people and share with folks your journey to help other people who are struggling. Completely, I really, really commend that. Awesome work, Tina. So
thank you.
The question really that I think you're asking is, Jay, you've had a pretty choppy career, and now you're sitting here taking over this new role as Titleist. How does it all fit together? So I spent the first 20 years of my career in institutional money management. Tina, I was at Lehman Brothers when they went out of business during the great financial crisis, dealt with all the challenges of that time period. And then so I decided to make it harder on myself and became an entrepreneur. And as you know, all the challenges that come with being an entrepreneur, failure, struggle, failure. Then you have some wins and people think you were born on third base. I also had the opportunity to launch a podcast. And today, I know it feels like everybody has a podcast, but I started the Resilient Advisor podcast, and really there were only a handful in the marketplace at the time. Kitsis had one, Brad Johnson had one. And so I decided, I think I could probably do this podcast thing. And so I started and I got lucky. And that's how I was able to build an audience, because there wasn't any competition. And so I was able to go and bring on CEOs from some of the most innovative companies in the industry and go in and bring in some thought leaders because they wanted access to this network of advisors that we had. And then at the same time, I was building my coaching and consulting business. And over the last 10 years, I helped launch 11 RIAs, launched an outsourced CIO firm, helped about $5 billion worth of AUM switch firms during that time period, and coached hundreds of advisors. And when I ran across Titleist, I know we'll get into this, it started as a consulting engagement, doing what I had always done for the past 10 years, but it presented an opportunity to do something a little bit different. And that's how we ended up in this role.
I'm so excited for you. I know that just based on seeing you at Future Proof, other conferences and other industry events, you are somebody that exudes passion and real excitement for the work that you're doing. And I love that. And I have to imagine that your partners over at Titleist, J.B. O'Banion, who I have had the great pleasure of meeting numerous times, Byron Fields, that's what they saw in you, Jay, is that they saw somebody really clearly engaged in their profession. Number one, enough to help other people. Not everybody can do that. And number two, just a real passion for the work that advisors do. And, that's part of the reason that I wanted to make sure that you and I had a conversation. Never have I been more excited and feel it more necessary for the work of advisors, because getting a cancer diagnosis was shocked and rocked my world. Thank God that I was in this profession since 2010. I made a full immersion, excited about it. I always believed in the work that financial advisors were doing. Now, it is the difference between life. It is life-saving work. It is life-saving. Thank God I did the types of things and then did the maneuvers that I did years and years ago because I work with a financial advisor. So I thank you for mentioning that. And I want everybody to hear that. Like, never has your work, Jay, and the work of Titleist Asset Management been more important than today.
Well, and Tina, all advisors, I'm old enough to remember when we were called stockbrokers. And we were brokering stocks. We would call people on the phone to sell them a stock for a commission that was hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. And in fact, during the drawdowns in the 90s, the approval ratings of Congress and stockbrokers were on par because they were just seen as peddlers, folks that were out trying to sell something and just looking out for themselves. And luckily, thanks to great organizations like the CFP board and advisors evolving, turning it from a sales profession into a profession that delivers real value and service to those clients, Tina, they can help folks like yourself. They can help people make sure they get set up so they don't fail financially.
Yeah, that's important. So back to this wonderful, humble origin story of yours, Jay. You're here now. You're CEO of Titleist Asset Management. When did that happened this year? What was the month?
September 1st is when we officially started.
Okay, September, and everybody listening to this, we are recording in October. So not even your 90-day period yet, but I have to imagine that there are some, top strategic priorities. What's on your wish list? What is, what are the most important initiatives right now for these, first 90 days and then beyond?
Yeah, so I think it's important to note that I've been working with the organization for 3 years.
Right.
So I was introduced to them 3 years ago. It was a typical consulting engagement where I was hired to come in and help optimize a couple of things. And as we started doing our research on the organization and seeing what they had to offer, I don't think they fully realized everything that they had to offer the advisor community. And so I really got to give JB and Byron, my partners, credit. They came back to me and said, we want you to really push us. Tell us where we'll keep paying you. Tell us where we're doing things wrong. Tell us where we have to get better and be very critical about it. And I came back to them with a fairly robust plan to go from being an aggregator, which is a term I don't really like, to becoming an enterprise. And the path from an aggregator to an enterprise, it's a big leap for firms. You go from having a couple of sales assistants that help support some advisors and you're trying to collect advisors and maybe earn a little bit of margin off of their business to building a business and a platform that can serve advisors all across the country. And so over that time period before taking over on September 1st, we've grown from $1 billion to, we're coming up on $2.5 billion by taking that aggregator to enterprise approach. So with that today, because we are a national RIA with advisors from California to the Carolinas, we really have to focus in on what's going to help us continue to maintain where we are and grow. So our chief operating officer is a gentleman named Dave Smitabush. He's a Harvard-trained MBA, an industrial engineer by training, and he worked for General Motors. So he is very process-driven. And the firm hired him 5 years ago to be COO before they were ever even thinking about being a national RIA. And because of that, we at our heart are focused on operational excellence. So when we think about priorities, Dave likes to say we're taking a Kaizen approach, which is a Japanese term of continual improvement. And our core platform, we call TAM 360, which is what we use to serve advisors and our advisors use to serve their clients. One of our strategic initiatives over the next year is just to make sure we continue improving it quarter over quarter, year over year, so that we're not stuck with old technology. Coupling that with growth, which really comes two ways, we want to make sure our advisors grow through practice management and helping them optimize best-in-class strategies so they grow their business, so they can build equity in their business. And then lastly, we want to grow our network of advisors who want to become independent business owners and grow with Titleist.
Jay, I the culture, the people culture that exists, it kind of reminds me of here at Intentionally. Kelly Waltrick, our CEO and founder, a lot of the culture has been built by Intentionally because the people who have shaped this. So as you were talking about Dave Smeidenbush, like I think it's like it's phenomenal to have had that vision. Now, I think you said 5 years, maybe he's been with the firm, and now you're over $2 billion, and about to add a cadre of new advisors, and you have that culture. One of the things that advisors have struggled with in the past is this like bureaucratic, is that kind of aggregator mentality, which clearly you have. You are the antithesis of that now that you are more on the enterprise. Talk to us a little bit about how you see Titleist, continuing to give advisors the freedom and the ownership they need while helping to scale the business. I think that practice management is definitely a part of that. Any comments there, or any things that, make Titleist different in terms of that cultural component to what we're talking about?
Yeah, and this is probably the biggest component as it relates to culture, and that is an absolute commitment to freedom and independence. And lots of firms talk about it, several of them deliver it, but we actually put it into our contracts. So if an advisor joins Titleist, it's written in your contract that you can leave at any time. We also have been private equity free since 2003, and we always will be. So part of my negotiations with Byron and JB before I came on board was to make sure they had that commitment to not bringing in private equity. Because, Tina, you can relate to the healthcare industry as well as I can. Private equity has gone in there and made the client experience miserable. And when I look across our industry, and not all private equity is bad, but you just look at potential challenges that are coming for advisors associated with firms that have a lot of private equity interest behind them. The clients will end up losing at the end of the day. So that really, we can't preach freedom and independence if we're going to have private equity partners that are going to come in and dictate how we run our business.
Not only that, what I feel that they do, Jay, is that, and again, from the outside looking in, is that they literally destroy an advisor's passion uh, for what they do. They become different people. They're like soured. They hate their jobs. They can't wait to leave because, again, there's a new sheriff in town, and there's such an emphasis. Like, growth will happen organically, right? You and I are both big believers in growth. Anywhere that we've been organizational wise, our organizations have grown as a part of that. But I feel that because when you are really happy about the work that you're doing, you really believe in it wholeheartedly. And not only that, you enjoy the people that you work with. Kelly also too is very against PE money, coming into Intentionally. And while it would solve, some problems, right? Make growth, certainly it would double or probably triple, maybe even quadruple our team. It's not the best approach. So it's incredible that you have taken deliberate and intentional care and intention around that, because it's destroyed a lot of the drive that an advisor started with when they started their business, and that made them so successful.
Tina, I could even take it a step further, and I get pretty passionate about this. So if you think about a firm that has private equity backing for growth, for recruiting advisors, it makes sense for some and not for others. Like with anything, there's winners and there's losers. So who wins? Well, the faceless private equity partners win. The advisors who are selling their business to private equity win. Who loses? Well, the clients, because they have to pay for that transaction. And then there's somebody else. It's these Gen 2 advisors that are going to have to service the clients of these retiring advisors. So I'm not opposed to private equity. It is a solution if set up the correct way, to where Gen 2 is still empowered to take care of their clients at a level that makes sense. And the clients don't have to go and pay for it with onerous fees or proprietary products. Or there was one firm that launched, they recruited all these advisors, they pitched independence, and then they sold out, and then all of a sudden every office had a sales manager. A sales manager, the exact type of thing these advisors left for. So it's important to make sure you know who the winners and losers are going to be if you join an organization that's backed by private equity.
You had mentioned the TAM 360 program platform. So I want to spend some time here. You know, technology is a big focus of what we do at Intentionally. We represent RIAs, hybrid RIAs, and we also represent technology firms. So, you know, technology has always been part and parcel about what we do. It's a real, like, you know, growth optimizer and equalizer. Back in the days when I was in wealth management and spent 9 years being a partner responsible for organic growth, we didn't have the Intentionallys of the world come in and build like growth engines and lead gen platforms. So, you know, everything we do, we had to cobble together. But, you know, you clearly, Jay, because you've been on the cutting edge of the advisory landscape, you see the value of platforms and technology. Talk to us a little bit about the TAM 360 platform. I'm deeply curious. I know it's an important part of your value proposition and an opportunity to solve some really big problems.
Yeah, so our TAM 360 platform is our AI-enabled platform that helps our advisors run their business and support their clients. But the key to this platform, because Tina, technology is table stakes. The key is that it's supported by our home office staff, our client service team led by Neil Cobb down in San Antonio. Neil's been with the firm for almost 15 years. He's a partner at the firm. That's how important client service is. And remember when an advisor used to be able to work at a regional broker dealer, pick up the phone and call somebody at the home office and get something done and get a response from a real person? Well, we have the technology to do it through technology, or they can pick up the phone and call somebody. So we like to consider our TAM 360 platform as AI enabled, but supported by humans. And one other component to our platform that I think is important. So we preach independence and freedom. There are firms out there building really cool AI-powered platforms for financial advisors. And if you join their firm, you can go and use this platform. Well, part of our value proposition is if you decide that you don't like me or you want to leave Titleist, you can leave any day. But if I've got you stuck inside of my platform, inside of my technology, you can't. We allow advisors not only to leave, but take your data, and you can recreate the tech stack that we've created on the other side after you move. And so that's why we're very intentional about having all of our technology integrate tightly. We're very intentional about partnering with firms that are AI forward and adding new AI tools. For example, Wealthbox just added their AI note taker. YCharts has started adding AI features inside of their tool. And as long as it's tightly integrated, the advisor wins.
I love that you're providing that support component. Because that human element in AI speak, it's that human in the loop. The idea is that no AI, even if it's just you're using it for communication, nothing is foolproof here. Nothing is like the quick answer to where you're going, but an AI enabled and empowered universe with team and with actual people support. Jay, that's huge. That's huge.
It's really important, especially if you think about the advisor when they're making a transition. They want to make sure you have enough human capital around you while you do that. And then as you get to the other side and you're growing, and hopefully if you're doing it right, you're going up market, you're dealing with larger and larger clients. You don't want to deal with a bot. You don't want to sit on hold with a custodian. We take care of all that for our clients, for our advisors, so that they can go and spend that time with their clients.
Yeah, you know, I was just, you and I were just at Future Proof last month, and one of the things that I saw were the fintech demos. And while some of them were more impressive than others, I thought like there are some advisors out there that haven't even adopted a CRM or a good portfolio management accounting software. And I was like, how in the world are they going to be able to do this and live in this new world? So, you know, it sounds like you've created the best of both worlds, an AI driven landscape, innovation, and people behind it. So that's really amazing, Jay.
Tina, I'm
Yeah,
curious because
yeah.
AI is like, it seems like it's binary when you talk to an advisor. They say,
Hmm.
yes, I get it. I
Hmm.
want to either learn it or I understand it. Or they say, I'm not going to do that. Kind of like the brokers in the 90s saying they weren't going to get on the internet or use email. When you talk to advisors, as it relates to marketing, do you have challenges getting advisors to leverage some of the AI tools to help them be better marketers?
Yeah, so the first hurdle, and I remember this from the early social media days as well too, when I created Twitternomics, and that is always there is this idea of this compliance hurdle, right? How, what does it mean for compliance? And intentionally is not using AI to create different outputs. We're trying to use AI to create a more seamless experience. We're using it a lot on the content creation side. For advisors right now, I think one of the most exciting things that we have right now are LinkedIn campaigns for advisors, whereby an advisor, Jay, doesn't have time. Now, you've got a phenomenal LinkedIn presence. And so you drank the Kool-Aid years and years ago when you created, your LinkedIn, and you're active and you've always been a thought leader. There are some advisors who took a long time to even get a LinkedIn, um, uh, a LinkedIn brand, if you will. And so we've got a LinkedIn campaign, we've got AI LinkedIn automation to help an advisor reach out and make more LinkedIn connections. That same AI software has the ability to create decision trees and different journeys. So, for example, let's say that you and I connect on day one. I can program the AI and say, okay, you know what, on day 8, I want you to send Jay this message. Or for every piece of content that Jay puts out, I want you to make sure that you like his posts. Right. So an advisor doesn't have time to reach out. So again, we're not reaching out with non-compliance approved language. We're not creating intentional journeys within that are a violation of their policies and even their own personal brand. Like, we're not spamming people with those long LinkedIn messages that you're getting. So the quick answer is, for most of the advisors that we see here at Intentionally, there isn't a barrier to AI because by definition, they're coming to Intentionally with a growth mindset. I would say that's probably true for Titleists, the advisors that are vetting you as being a potential innovation and growth partner, whereas they can, tuck into all things, including the TAM 360 platform. They are by definition wanting to grow, having a component of R&D, deeply curious. They want to be in a 2026 world. They want to look like they're in a 2026 world, and they want to operate. And, it was way back when in our firm, we were the first to have a CRM. We were the first to make a move to Orion Connect. We were the first to move on social media when I was the lonely voice in the room. We were the first to move on YouTube. And what happened? Our firm was acquired. Exactly the goal that I was set up for when I first came on board, and they made me a partner within 9 months. So sorry, that's a long-winded answer to a very, very good question. Most of the advisors that we see over here Intentionally, they've got a growth mindset. And so they're like, you know what? Sure, anything that you do that's going to save me time and that's going to save me money, sign me up for that.
That's excellent. I got to tell you, the advisors that aren't thinking about growing are really setting themselves up for some real challenges. For the simple fact that we've been in essentially a 15-year bull market, give or take a little bit of challenges in 2020 and 2022. When we have a protracted bear market, if you don't have a methodical way to go and a systematic way to grow your business, you're going to be in trouble because you're not going to have the benefit of all that market growth. So hopefully those folks who are on the fence about whether they need to hire a firm like Intentionally to help power their growth really think through the second degree effects of that should we end up in another bear market.
Yeah, and the other reason too that they want to make sure that they're growing is because, I know that valuations are a certain way and they're usually formulaic. Jay, you're a CFP and you're a CMA, right? I don't have those same credentials, and math isn't my strong point. But what I know is this: when my business was even acquired by my now business partner, Kelly Waltrick, they looked at my trailing revenue, right? They looked at what was the experience, what was 5.5 years of growth over at C-Suite Social Media. And I could tell you that nobody wants to acquire a depreciating asset unless it's a used car and it's a classic car, right? That's the only depreciating asset. So I would think that every advisor listening right now to our conversation, Jay, engineer for growth by aligning yourself with a growth partner.
Yep. You don't have to do it yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. Anything else that I failed to ask on the AI landscape right now that you're seeing over at Titleist that is like equally intriguing right now?
Tina, because of the podcast I host, I've been able to bring on some really, really interesting thought leaders in the AI space. Parker Entz from Jump AI came on, and Jason Wink from Altruist here recently, and they have really, really cool tools. There's really, really great innovation going on, and they both said something that really, really hit home. In one way or another, they both said, what you're using today from our firm is the worst it's ever going to be. Wait till you see what it looks like 12 months from now. So the rate of growth of these platforms is really, really high. So that's the optimism I have about AI. But here's the caution. It's not the panacea that some people make it out to be. Tina, I can't tell you how many deliverables I've gotten back from vendors that you were clearly done by AI. I think AI can generally get a project 80% done, and then the human has to come on board. Even if it's 90 or 95, you have to put eyes on it. Because the minute you send something to somebody and you haven't gone and put eyes on the project to make sure, you really lose credibility with that person. So I caution advisors, particularly as these planning tools and these investment tools have AI, make sure that you're still putting your own ideas, your research, and your lens before you push it out the door.
That's great. Thanks, Jay, for that. I want to transition and I want to talk, we're still on this theme of growth. You have helped in your career multiple RIAs nationwide, right? What types of advisors, we talk about that mindset for growth and maybe that being a prerequisite for both of our companies, right? Neither one of us are aligned to people who are like, I don't know about webinars. I don't know about landing pages. I don't know about YouTube. But, people that are still scratching their head, we just, say politely that we're probably not the right partner for you. But what type of advisors or partnerships are you really excited to bring into the fold into Titleist?
So as it relates to advisors, so our avatar that we best serve is an advisor who's generally, let's call it $100 to $250 million, who isn't ready to sell their business, who understands that there is a generational wealth opportunity to grow your business the right way and then sell later. So they come to us because they want to build a resilient business that is high growth, and they want to become independent business owners, building the equity in their own practice.
Yeah, that's huge. That didn't exist, right? Our RIA was acquired. And again, that was an intentional maneuver. That was the goal. That was the goal of marketing, and that got us a lot of dates. We were vetted. We met with everybody. Interestingly enough, is the founder of that company never had the opportunity that you're telling me right now, never had the opportunity to really join without like having to make a sale like right at the beginning. So I think, what I noticed, and tell me what you noticed too, it's really hard to sell your business. But what you've described at Titleist is not it's not that. It's something different. It sounds like it's, more partnering for growth and then, eventually deciding where you want to take it. Do you want to go a little deeper on that?
Yeah, so a couple things in there to unpack. First, it is like the Wild West when you try and go independent. So say you're
Hmm.
sitting inside of a wirehouse, you want to go independent. It's not the same as going from a Merrill Lynch to a UBS. And
Right.
what ends up happening is advisors go and start getting their information from one source. And that one source could be a custodian that they reached out to. It could be a recruiter or, potentially some friends in the industry. The reality is you have to educate yourself before you make that type of transition because every platform is different. They all have different value propositions. If an advisor reaches out to me and they say, Jay, I'm looking for the best deal. I want to get a big check and then I want to sell my business in 2 years. That is fantastic. There are lots of advisors like that. Let's go find the right firms that make the most sense for you. So because of that, the due diligence on the front end when you're looking for a firm is the most important.
Mm-hmm.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, and I think you said something like certainly the breakaway advisors, that was always a trend, but I think never has it been more, and I don't know what's driving that, Jay. I think that the path to independence is, seductive, for lack of a better word, for a lot of, wirehouses. But now I think that the road to independence is a lot easier to walk. It's like it's a yellow brick road. When I was working at a firm, the options weren't like they are today. There's a plethora of options, but I think I feel a really unique offering because of your background in being in this part of this industry and consulting with so many advisors and working with other RIA firms and helping them go nationwide. You really truly understand your advisor and what they need to be supported and to be happy.
Yep. And you know what, Tina? It comes down to really 4 planks of our differentiation. So this is one of the reasons I was excited to join Titleist in the capacity I am, as opposed to my old role where I could help advisors go to any firm that made the most sense.
Right.
So we live in the most highly regulated industry in the history of man. So when somebody says we're unique and we're changing the industry, you're really not, because there's only so many things you can do on the margins. But it's what you do on the margins that will make a difference. And we have 4 differentiators on the margins that, when put together, really do make sense for the right advisor. First, we talked about this earlier, our commitment to operational excellence. Most firms brag about their investment management or a marketing system that they have. Our fastball is operational excellence, powered by our team in San Antonio and our TAM 360 platform. Then it's advisor freedom. Advisors can leave by contract anytime they want and take all their data. Now, you can find that other places, but you might not have an operational platform that can help you with your business. And then, we don't have to get into the details of this. You can go to jointitleist.com to see the numbers, but we have crystal clear economics. There's nothing more frustrating than helping an advisor evaluate 2 different national RIAs or 2 different aggregators and what they would actually earn, with all the hidden fees and monthly ticks for this and custodian stuff that they didn't understand. We make it crystal clear. And then lastly, as we've talked about, we do not have a private equity partner. We will not have a private equity partner. We want to provide independence for the long term for our advisors.
So looking ahead, it's 2025 right now. And I hope to join you in that. We have a date, Jay, 3 years from now, because I know that you're going to hit these marks. What does success look like, 3 years from now? What milestones, innovation? Again, it's probably a unfair question because the world is rapidly changing. Never before have we been in this period of amazing disruption. But what do you hope that 3 years again into the future, when you and I are sitting here and having a conversation, what metrics and what are you looking for to achieve?
Yeah, Tina, we're in an industry that prioritizes AUM, revenue, and profit margins. And all of that is important. But our mission at Titleist is to serve 20,000 families and empower 100 financial advisors to build equity in their own business as independent business owners. So that's our goal over the next 3 to 5 years, to make sure that we are serving the families and that we are helping our partners become independent business owners.
I knew that you would have a great answer for that, Jay. I know it feels so mission driven and the impact that you want to make. And truly, you're a person that has been motivated by the change that you make. Should also mention that you're a business coach as well, too. You're a great personal coach. You're a great person. You've been tremendously helpful in my own journey, but you're a person that truly wants to make an impact in the lives of other people. And I love that. That's a great, great answer. Are there any other like stories that anything that, before we leave, and I've got one more question for you, but are there any stories that you want to relay? You've made such an impact on so many people. I'm not sure if there's one standout that's like, oh yeah, you know what? When this happened, Tina, like it lit up my world.
Yeah, Tina, we just redid our website with the help of the great folks at Intentionally. We relaunched TitlistAdvisorNetwork.com. And on there, you guys encouraged us to build a case study. And so when your team asked us to do that, I thought, this is a no-brainer. We need to talk about Christian Amesbury. He joined us a little bit over a year ago, and his success journey took him from a bureaucratic organization to a platform where he has complete independence. We helped him hone in on his niche, dial in his marketing, and he grew by well over 50% in just the first 12 months. And that's really the power of what an independent platform can help an advisor do. The case study's on the website if you want to go to jointitleist.com.
Thank you, Jay. Thanks, amazing. And thanks to all of the team here at Intentionally that made that that possible. Again, I've got to credit you that you're a person that has always been on the cutting edge of innovation. You're deep like me, you're deeply curious about the world, and you are someone that embraces change. I know that there are going to be some advisors who are listening, and I would mention too, any conversation that you want to have with Jay, could be very confidential too. So I think the path to independence is a great one, because what you've just talked about with Christian is just, someone that is really equally inspired by the work that they're doing. So, it makes our work a lot really exciting to represent people like Christians and Titleists in the world. But how should people get in contact with you?
Easiest thing you can do is go to jointitleist.com. You can learn about our platform, you can learn about the economics, and then you could schedule a meeting with my partner JB or myself, and we'd be happy to walk you through the value proposition of our firm.
Great, Jay. Thank you so much for making the time. And thank you, everybody, for listening and making the time as well. We appreciate you, and we hope that you have a great rest of your day.
The listener of this content should not assume that any information presented or made available on or through this media channel is receipt of or substitute for personalized investment advice. Titleist Asset Management, LLC, or TAM, is an SEC-registered investment advisor. Registration with the SEC does not imply a certain level of skill or expertise. TAM provides its services to individuals, high net worth investors, including trusts and other legal entities, and provides access to model portfolio strategies offered through its affiliate, Shorebird Capital LP. For a copy of TAM's disclosure documents, please visit www.advisorinfo.sec.gov.